Worries about the future every day. We live with many worries on our minds. Our plans for tomorrow, how others perceive us, and our past mistakes at why mind gets overwhelmed with thoughts of what I should have done if only I had taken that action. That it seems as though we are always walking the path of life in a state of tension, but Buddhism challenges us to reflect. Is it really something we should be so concerned about? Our approach to Buddhism, which attempts to manage life according to plans while embracing everything, is truly gentle, but it delivers a clear message. Don't worry about it. Life will always find a way. Aging is not mere irresponsible optimism. Instead, it's a realm of trust grounded in deep wisdom. It encompasses all things. Even if it seems like a coincidence, we are moving forward within the unseen connections of causality and chance. Embracing this flow without resisting it and focusing on what can be done in the present moment is what truly matters. This is the path of the heart that enriches life and brings a sense of lightness to the spirit. In this video, we will explore from a Buddhist perspective. I will discuss the truths that become apparent when you stop worrying too much and embrace the flow of civilization. Overthinking deeply can lead to a loss of mental freedom, making it seem as though nothing is actually being accomplished. For those who feel exhausted by a life where things seem to take care of themselves, and for those who are worn out by not being able to get things to go their way, I'd like to share these words with you. Please try to relax. Please stay with me until the very end. I'm sure it will resonate with your heart. You should find hints that help lighten your mood. First, let's go with the flow and trust in fate. Life rarely goes as planned. This is a reality that most people have experienced at least once. No matter how much we plan, no matter how hard I try sometimes, unexpected events can catch you off guard, and everything can fall apart in an instant. However, in the realm of Buddhism, this is seen not as misfortune or failure, but rather as guidance from the West. It is beyond one's own will and strength to reflect a wise perspective that events occur within a larger context. In other words, we can't control every aspect of our lives. Therefore, instead of struggling to gain control, it's essential to adopt an attitude of trust and go with the flow. It's about letting yourself be guided by the twists of fate. It does not imply that one is doing nothing. Having done the best I can with care, it embodies a gentle mindset of releasing the outcomes and surrendering to the flow, while being careful not to misdirect one's efforts. Tio embraced the mindset that things will eventually turn out as they are meant to. This is exactly what Buddhism teaches. This is the first type in a year. When people come across this way of thinking, they naturally feel a sense of relief in their shoulders. They feel an obligation to agree with everything. Preconceived notions are gradually fading away. It feels like fresh, clear water being poured into murky water, allowing the heart to slowly move forward. And what matters most is not every circumstance will meet my current expectations. During a regular meeting, when I look back after some time, I realize that things didn't go well at that time, that I'm glad I returned. It's because of this encounter that I am who I am today. There will certainly come moments when I feel this way. In Buddhism, this is referred to as a good connection. Some things may also appear this way at first glance. When viewed from a long-term perspective, it turns out that it was a connection that guided you. That's why you don't need to worry too much about the things you can't control right now. In Buddhist philosophy, letting yourself go with the flow of life. This isn't just fleeing from a sense of power. It's a choice guided by profound wisdom. After all, it often appears that most things are determined by our own will. In reality, we are influenced by numerous preparations, our relationships with others, our past decisions, and the invisible twists of fate. For instance, you're here right now. It's not just a coincidence. It's about how my parents met, the paths I took to the people I grew up around, and the events that occurred. If even one of those elements had been different, this very moment today wouldn't exist. It's the interplay of countless connections. But a truly spiritual hot spring experience. The concept of dependent origination suggests that nothing exists in isolation. While engaged with one another, everything is constantly changing. This means that the place where you are currently standing might appear to be a coincidence. Yet it is actually an inevitable result shaped by countless causes and connections. From this perspective, we find ourselves worried about how things ended up this way, in a cute sort of way. Within this context, you will be able to understand what responsibilities have been entrusted to you. Additionally, Buddhism teaches that strong attachment leads to suffering. It should be this way. Thinking that things must be a certain way makes us overlook the general possibilities right in front of us and can shut us off emotionally. By surrendering to a flow that cannot be dictated by one's own will, conversely, opportunities and encounters that once seemed invisible are drawn to us naturally. Thus, the act of acceptance it's not about giving up. It's a testament to the inner strength that allows us to maintain an open heart while accepting our current circumstances, be wide trusting the process, and taking a step back. The next steps become clear. In that moment, the strength to take charge of your life wells up from within. Thus, by not forcibly resisting or fearing, and instead standing quietly within the flow of life, one can embrace a way of living that surrenders to the currents of Buddhist fortune. Your life will surely come together at unexpected moments. In life, things often don't go as planned. The extent to which one can accept is one of the essential practices in Buddhism, and the key to this it refers to the ability to trust, particularly in relation to someone or something not about standing here now. I feel the invisible connections unfolding in this moment. It conveys a profound sense of security that comes from having faith and letting go. When events happen in life, we're often influenced by things we can't choose, such as where we're born, our family, and the environment we grow up in. These are not things we chose by our own will, yet we still refuse to accept them. We are living in the present moment. In Buddhism, there's a term that conveys the idea of knowing contentment. This is within the current conditions and circumstances I have been given that it already has significance and worth. It signifies understanding and having a grateful heart. Going with the flow doesn't merely mean relying on luck. It's about appreciating connections we have in the present. It's about making the most out of each day, even when unexpected or unwanted events arise. This fosters a mindset that can watch over future connections. What initially appeared to be a failure ultimately brings people together. IT presents an opportunity to open a new chapter in life. Only those who can believe in it. I don't get too caught up in the ups and downs of what's ahead. With a calm mind, you can move ahead. It's easy to get caught up in excessive worrying, is held back by the past and anxious about what lies ahead. IT can make you lose sight of the present, but there are those who believe that everything will somehow work out. By living honestly and going with the flow. In fact, you'll find yourself meeting the best future. Let's embrace whatever comes our way. This isn't about giving up. It's about actively accepting what life offers. And just beyond that, unexpected miracles and encounters are waiting for you. I don't take life too seriously. Why do people tend to think seriously about things? Often, there are things that shouldn't be considered wrong. It's because of strong fear of failure that life is becoming unnecessarily burdensome. Buddhism advocates for a moderate approach to things, encouraging us not to be swayed by extreme thoughts or to cling to either side. Living with a gentle balance and moderation is essential for practicing the teachings of moderation, but it's about not getting too caught up in serious thoughts. For instance, when a problem arises, it can feel like it's a big deal and that the worst is yet to come. Sometimes, one can quickly dive into extreme creativity. However, much of this is just speculative about a future that has not yet occurred in Buddhism. These kind of unnecessary anxieties and worries I refer to it as delusion, being cautious of how it distracts us from what truly matters. In essence, we frequently fabricate heavy narratives in our minds that I'm feeling trapped by that. What I need right now is to realize that it's okay not to overthink things. It's okay not to be perfect. There's a gentleness in knowing that things can work out even when you fail. Being serious isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, if you take everything too seriously, you'll lose your mental balance and fail to notice the little joys that are right in front of you. What is valued in Buddhism is to fully embrace this moment at university. We need a sense of lightness rather than seriousness. It's only natural that not everything goes well on the first try. In fact, it's often through failure that we gain a clearer understanding. When I was able to feel that way, the heavy burden on my shoulders was effortlessly lifted, and my entire perspective on life transformed. Those who have developed a habit of deep thinking constantly seek the right answers, the best choices, the surest paths, and judgments that draw no criticism from anyone. In the pursuit of that, one ends up attaching excessive significance to every single choice, eventually sinking into a sea of anxiety that surpasses mere caution. However, from a Buddhist viewpoint, the right answer is always subject to change. In this world where everything, situations, people, and ourselves is constantly changing, it is said that obsessing over a single correct answer is the root of suffering. When you embrace this flexible mindset, for now, just give it a try. It's okay to make changes along the way. This mindset allows people who tend to overthink to feel more at ease. I tend to take on too many responsibilities, especially concerning my relationships, job, and future. Feeling like I have to handle everything on my own, I've eventually pushed myself beyond my limits and have been struggling. At this time, Buddhism advocates for it is a matter of discernment. Discernment is the wisdom to recognize what can be done and what cannot. And this is not about abandoning efforts. It reflects the courage to let go of what isn't within your realm, as well as a notion of serious contemplation. This doesn't mean that you should live irresponsibly. Rather, it's about embracing simplicity. It is a principle in Buddhism to focus on what can be done now by letting go of unnecessary burdens. There's a term known as reputation, which signifies a heart that is light and at peace. This state arrives when we let go of seriousness to end the state of harmony. There's no anxiety or attachment to the past, and I can confidently say that I'm okay with who I am right now. There's a quiet sense of affirmation growing within me. That's why, even in the face of any anxiety-inducing situation, I remind myself not to overthink things. Observing can help clear the mind and provide the support needed to take the next step, especially when we find ourselves overthinking. Our minds are elsewhere, caught up in a future that is yet to come. I find myself trapped in a past that has long ended, unable to remain grounded in reality. Buddhism addresses this kind off. It's a good time as the year comes to a close this Saturday. Unfounded anxiety and exaggerated imaginings drain the heart more than real suffering does. So how can we break free from this uncertainty? It's about laughing that it means to let go of one's strength, as understood in Buddhism. Having a gentle heart, the importance of warmth and lightness is emphasized. In fact, many ideas become softer once we awaken to our psychology. Trying to see it seems like they live somewhat carefreely in a positive way. Seriousness comes from deep contemplation, that a sense of lightness encouraged by Buddhism arises from acceptance and letting go. Just take it easy. Everything will work out. That's just another scene in life. I've learned to speak to myself that way. No problem is truly hopeless. The phrase, who metaphorically suggests transience. The second part appears unfinished, indicating a thought that requires completing for full clarity. Ultimately, it's about moving things forward in a positive way. This perspective is quite reasonable from a Buddhist viewpoint, as a heavy and rigid mind leaves no room for creativity or flexibility. However, when the heart is lightly set, it creates a distant flow like the wind, bringing unexpected connections with people and methods. Being free from seriousness means it's not about taking life lightly. Instead, it's about having a mature heart that can find meaning in any situation. That is, it is the lightness spoken of in Buddhism regarding GRAS for the third point. Everything will fall into place by tomorrow. Out of concern for the future, we often end up worrying and overthinking things in advance, making plans along the way. Preparing for the worst is not a bad idea. However, if you become too focused on the future, when I detach myself from the ground of present reality, my heart feels suspended in the air. In Buddhism, we refer to this as micro. It represents a future that has not yet arrived. This can also be interpreted as something that doesn't exist, meaning that in reality, nothing has been determined. This means that it is merely a possibility. Yet, we tend to impose our anxieties and fears onto that potential. Although I may worry about a future that hasn't happened yet, Buddhism teaches us to live mindfully in the present as nature and tomorrow come together. It's our choices today that shape the future, and it's important to consider what mindset we have in this moment. The way we choose our attitudes and words naturally shapes the paths that lie ahead. However, in Buddhism, practicing isn't anything extraordinary. It's simply about doing what's in front of you with quiet care. For those who cherish each day, a future that has been quietly set in place arrives. This way of life gives us the ability to find peace of mind, especially regarding what tomorrow holds. I've started to believe that my future self will receive this. You will be able to focus on living life to the fullest in the present. This involves accepting aspects of the future that are beyond your control, that on the other hand, life flows smoothly. Thinking that tomorrow will sort itself out feels a bit irresponsible. You might get the impression that it's overly optimistic. However, this concept in Buddhism is rooted in profound introspection. Instead of just wishing without taking action, a future is available only to those who believe in the present and act on it. Many people I try to create a perfect plan to achieve my goals, but life doesn't always go as expected. Rather, it is within unexpected coincidences, the influence of others, and changes in the environment. You are likely to encounter unexpected developments more often than not. What matters most is having the flexibility to embrace these surprises. In Buddhism, there's a teaching known as Mujisho, which conveys that nothing has a fixed essence. It is the wisdom that constantly evolves based on the situation and relationships. This means we should avoid concluding that things should or must be a certain way. It's important to adapt yourself to the changes. The future is a fluid entity that takes shape through the accumulation of our present moments. Within that flow, someone who focused solely on diligently completing their tasks found themselves, before they knew it, approaching their ideal future. This is a very natural consequence of cause and effect from a Buddhist perspective. What's crucial here is to remain patient, as getting anxious when results don't come right away is counterproductive. If even one thing doesn't go right, it feels like everything is a failure. This way of thinking is the primary reason that clouds my future. The future is not shaped simply by living. It quietly and gradually takes form out of sight. That is why it's important to have faith in your current journey. And when the unseen flow of life begins to move, your tomorrow will turn out to be greater than you ever imagined. Things come together gently and peacefully. When we find ourselves uncertain, we often hope to make the right choice. But who decides what is truly right? And how can we know if that choice was indeed the right one? It's something that can only be understood in the distant future, not today. That's why Buddhism is relevant, is you need to keep reminding yourself to focus on the here and now, because it is your current way of being that naturally shapes the future. This is important in Buddhism, it's not about providing the perfect answer. What matters is the attitude you bring to the present moment. It's about working with sincerity, expressing gratitude during meals, and casually offering kind words to someone. These small actions accumulate. It will create an opportunity to quietly transform the future. This is what the Buddhist terms mentioned here refer to. The principle of actions and their consequences states that good deeds lead to positive outcomes, even if they don't come right away. Guy operates as a force that reliably shapes the future behind the scenes. This is why it's more about what we choose than just the choice itself. It's important what mindset you choose with. However, actions taken out of impatience or fear tend unexpectedly attract a tomorrow that brings suffering to oneself. On the contrary, everything will fall into place. When you act based on the confidence that putting in your best effort today is enough, you'll create opportunities and connections. And before you realize it, tomorrow will come together on its own. The important thing is to tidy up what's in front of you, keep your room organized, enjoy your meals mindfully, and speak kindly to others. Just that can change the future, which is a concept from Buddhist psychology. So please, don't rush or become overly anxious. If you spend the day with all your heart, tomorrow will answer you without needing any words. Now, let's summarize today's video. Life is full of surprises that often don't go as we wish. That's why trying to control everything by your own efforts can be challenging. Before I know it, my heart is worn out. The teachings of Buddhism speak to us in this way. Don't worry, life will find a way. This isn't just a careless attitude. Rather, everything is connected by cause and effect. It's a phrase rooted in the deep trust that every encounter has meaning. It's precisely because we live in a world we can't control. Carry out your tasks with care. Then I just go with the flow. This is the wisdom of trusting oneself as taught by Buddhism. It also means keeping your heart at peace. If you take life too seriously, by worry about a future that hasn't even happened yet, we can lose sight of our true capabilities and potential. It's perfectly fine not to strive for perfection. It's about having the courage to embrace the uncertainties of life instead of escaping from reality. What I ultimately want to convey is, tomorrow it's the psychology of things aligning on their own. If we pour our hearts into today, tomorrow will surely be brighter. They'll respond somehow. There's no need to rush. It's perfectly fine to pause and think when you feel uncertain. Okay, life goes on despite everything. things will naturally start moving again and fall into place. Please, don't let the past hold you back, and have faith in your current self as you look toward the future. When you believe in yourself, the world will believe in you too and start supporting you. Today's lessons are inspired by Kukai. Thank you so much for watching. Everything will be okay. I hope this video has inspired you, even just a little. We hope you'll subscribe to our channel. See you next time. See you in the next video. Haven't you worked hard enough by now? The anxiety you've been carrying all this time, it's all right to quietly let go of everything about myself that strives to meet the expectations of responsibility today. The teachings of Buddhism do not tell us to endure more suffering. Instead, they urge us to let go of our suffering. This is because a lot of suffering comes from, it's not just about the events happening outside. Do not have this is because in our hearts, we unconsciously keep making the choice to continue suffering. That's why today, the boundary to end a particular line of thought to a lifestyle, well, a quiet reaction based on a specific assumption. It is possible to choose that you are the only one. Today, we're looking at it from a Buddhist perspective, the courage to bring things to an end. How will this change our lives? I will gaze deeply and quietly that first ability to let go quietly brings order to life. Let's conclude this with these words. Apply it to my own life. It is something very important. This is why. Once I let go of my choices, I reflect on my past. This suggests that we should quietly close one chapter and start preparing to move forward to the next stage, as is often reflected in Buddhist teachings. I place a high value on the act of organizing. When it comes to cleaning, sincerity and a high-quality attitude are essential. Also, it's an important practice to harmonize the outside world with our inner selves. In doing so, we can also bring things to a close. It's a major decision to bring some order to our lives. Living in the modern world, we find ourselves overwhelmed by excessive information and emotions. Even though I realize that I don't need it anymore, it's a habit that I've somehow continued. And I can't forget the word someone once said to me, which I hold on to without even realizing it. Things like anger and regret, if we continue to harbor thoughts in our hearts, it can lead to a disordered life. In Buddhism, there is a concept known as jokin. It's not about giving up. It's about understanding the essence of things. IT refers to the process of quietly discerning and accepting. This involves looking at the reality before you as it is, and gradually letting go of each attachment and expectation. It serves as a strength to take care of one's mental well-being and move forward again, especially in the context of personal relationships. You might find yourself forcing a connection with someone who no longer resonates with you. However, if that relationship is causing you suffering, it's all right to let it end. Ending it isn't an act of coldness. Instead, it liberates us from the pain of being tied to each other. It's a comforting choice. I've also been struggling with the belief that things must be a certain way, and I've carried the anxiety of not being able to share this with anyone. The self-blame for my failures will quietly come to an end today, along with these internal rules I've imposed on myself. When I can achieve this within my heart, a profound sense of tranquility and relief washes over us. In Buddhist philosophy, the act of letting go is not about negating anything, but about embracing a new current. Just like a mighty river, life is always in motion. What hinders that flow is our self-obsession and lingering regrets about the past. It is, for instance, a comment that was made in the past hurts me every time I remember in my heart after all these years. But that word no longer exists in reality. The only one who carries it is me. That's why, in this very moment, I can choose to declare that this chapter is closed. And in doing so, my mind finally returns to the present. What does it mean to have the power to end? So, in other words, it is a power that exists here. Our tendency to cling to the past and fear the future lies within this present moment. Because I've lost my sense of belonging, that be why letting go of that hesitation, I finally revive my sense of self and can refocus on the choices I need to make. It is possible to finish that. IT is a quiet determination that doesn't need to be shared with anyone. Even a small inner declaration can profoundly change the quality of our lives. It is a preparation to lighten ourselves and to live truthfully. This captures the essence of what it means to bring something to an end. Buddhism is a religion that conveys its teachings not through words, but through an approach to existence and the act of ending. Your composed demeanor affects those around you more than words ever could, quietly providing comfort and healing. To start with, to improve oneself and foster better relationships with those around me. The courage to bring things to an end. Oh, please go ahead and try holding it from here. It quietly guides your future. Guarding it serves as a guiding force. Sometimes the act of bringing something to an end can feel like a loss that if you let go, you risk losing something, and if you stop, you might end up regretting it. However, what truly weighs on you is the burden of things left unsaid. There is something that has become a significant loss in life, holding on to something that causes you pain. For my future self-possibility is a gift. It's like being in a situation where you can't receive anything. Today, try to finish at least one task. And, for instance, when I woke up in the morning, did I remind myself that today is the day I put an end to this way of thinking, even if no one ever hears that word. Indeed, life creates ripples within you. Change happens through quiet decisions. What does it mean to have the power to end things? It takes strength to repeatedly make that decision in the background. By putting an end to something, you can be more gentle with yourself. Only one who has continued can understand this. Back when I couldn't feel any sense of value, I might not have allowed myself to stop, rest, or even give up. But now, you realize that you have the power to let things go. That realization marks the beginning of transformation. It's only because something has come to an end that we can see these new perspectives for the first time. It is serene and clear, brimming with the abundance that suits your life. Please do not be afraid of that aspect. An ending is always your own first act of kindness. It begins by aligning the second one. A person of things, I become optimistic about starting something new, like a new job or new relationships. Although I'm excited about new hobbies and challenges, I find myself resisting the idea of bringing something to an end. Although it may feel like defeat, escape, or betrayal, from a Buddhist perspective, ending something it is viewed as a way to move forward. Without an end, there cannot be a beginning. If you do not let go, you cannot welcome something new. It's like holding something tightly while in a traditional restaurant. It's like not being able to accept a new gift. It's about what we carry in our hearts. Changing attachments and the expectations I have for others, alongside the events of my past self, are still things I have yet to resolve. Unconsciously, I've been carrying this burden. It weighs heavily on my heart, slows down my actions, and makes me feel like my life is stuck in some way. In Buddhism, there's a teaching known as renunciation. This is a crucial concept that values the act of letting go. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, and that by releasing it, one can restore the mind's natural lightness and clarity. This car is not about treating things and people carelessly. Instead, it's about acknowledging with love and gratitude that this experience is no longer necessary for me and letting it go. By completing tasks, we create new opportunities for ourselves. It's scary to think about ending something. If this disappears, what will become of me? What if nothing is left after I let go? Those thoughts bind my heart. But actually, that very state of emptiness this represents a foundation that Buddhism seeks. In Buddhism, the concept of consumption is valued. Everything is fundamentally empty. That's why we can be free and adaptable, allowing acceptance. By emptying ourselves for a moment, life starts to flow gently once more. There are moments in our daily lives that are worth expressing. For instance, there's the mindset of constantly blaming oneself every day, the tendency to get angry easily, and a self-assessment that is constrained by past failures. Habits that cause you to suffer. Or try to bring things to a close today. It's not an exaggeration at all. Simply whispering a small inner declaration to yourself is completely fine. Let's put an end to it today. These words have a power beyond what you might imagine, because the moment you decide to end something, it is because we are freed from the past. People cannot move on until they finish something that I will remain influenced by it, no matter how trivial it may be. But it's something that's been weighing on my mind. Every time I try to move forward, I find myself being held back. That's what it means to reach an END. IT is also necessary to give oneself new options. Reconsider the way of life I believe should be like this, and the freedom to choose a different path. Ha is every ending marks a new beginning. Mas, the seed bursts into the sky, like the cloud is, to take on a new form. To it is natural to bring things to a close. In fact, it is the very cycle of life. That is why it is important to bring things to an end. Ha! This is not a negative action. Rather, the most proactive version of oneself. Ha! What do I need to end, and how should I do it? The topic marker is used to indicate the subject of a sentence in Japanese. It's not something others should decide. Trust your intuition that says, is this enough? And keep going. Mo provide context to reality. To finish in Buddhism, there is a teaching known as contemplation. This refers to, instead of focusing on the outside world, it's about observing the movements of one's own heart and, through that observation, understanding what is truly needed. It's about figuring out for yourself what's unnecessary. And if today is the day, if you feel it's the right time to end, please be gentle and let it come to an end. You don't have to force yourself to forget or let go. Just express your gratitude quietly in your heart, bidding farewell with gratitude for that event and the emotions it brought. Let's end with this. There is always a beginning waiting for us. But what that beginning is, it only comes when a heart is empty. That's why choosing to quietly end today prepares us to receive the next light. The decision to end it's something quiet and unnoticeable, yet it will surely change your life, even if no one knows about it. I don't need anyone's praise to be okay. That moment when the curtain quietly closed within you indeed pulls you away from your suffering, you can approach it freely. Ending something isn't about sacrificing life. It's a gentle choice made to protect life that I hope that starting today, you can let go of those hurtful thoughts and feelings, arriving at acceptance of the end of the third point. The power of regeneration belongs to us. People often have a negative perception of endings. When something ends, it usually feels like a loss. It represents both failure and separation. This is especially true when it comes to significant relationships or phase in one's career. Each time I confront an ending, I am surrounded by profound sadness and a feeling of loss. However, Buddhism offers us a different perspective. That is, it's a perspective that sees an ending as the beginning of a new rebirth. An ending isn't destruction. It's a chance for a new self to emerge. It is a quiet process of nurturing the soil. During the time when Buddhism was founded in ancient India, ascetics began their practice by letting go of everything in order to start anew, often leaving behind their families. Matter the pursuit of wealth and the search for sea led one to break away from societal constraints and find a quiet space to connect with their inner self. This choice was made with a heart that fears nothing about losing. And beyond that, independent and free from any ties, there was a life of free rebirth. In Buddhism, we talk about the concept of extinction. Everything is born. It is said that the essence of life lies in this infinite cycle of destruction and rebirth. In other words, the ending of something is always a sign of a new beginning. For instance, when a relationship comes to an end, that could be a sad occurrence. It's true it serves as a chance to reclaim myself. By putting an end to the relationship that was straining my heart, the tranquility experienced for the first time, and the return to original sensations. Establishing new relationships to IT signifies a deep sensitivity. Or perhaps it's the moment when the work or activities I've been passionate about come to an end. It is coming. When I ended the path I believed to be the only one without question, I discovered that countless branches had already opened up before me. The fear of endings it's a completely natural reaction for a human. However, Buddhism teaches that the fear of change leads to suffering. When producing, don't resist change. If we often find ourselves living in denial of reality, which leads to a stagnation in our lives, learning to accept the end means. It's not just about giving up. It's about keeping an open heart in a changing world, like trimming the dead branches off a tree by releasing outdated ways of thinking, relationships, and habits. New opportunities will eventually emerge. Buds unfold, and life and snow come alive once more. Completing the end of butter properly holds great significance. Leaving things uncertain. If we leave things unfinished, the pain of unfulfilled things will linger in our hearts. When attempting to embark on something new, there are factors that unconsciously hold us back. In Buddhism, there is a term known as shang. This teaches us that our actions and thoughts lead to future outcomes, but the act of bringing something to a close is also important. Having the ability to make a significant impact on the future as a primary goal. By addressing things properly and bringing them to a close, the subsequent flow will be as you quietly close it, a new flow takes shape. It's fine if you can receive it. Make sure to summarize the net points. But after that, please say this to yourself. Is over. That's why I want someone to say this new phrase. These are the words of rebirth I give myself. Do not fear the end. In a way, that took a lot of courage. Social Buddhism, this gently teaches us such a way of living. And most importantly, it's crucial. Na-no-wa, this is a perspective of reinterpreting endings as a celebration. My ending. At that moment, all I could feel was suffering and pain. Or perhaps I was just at a children's center. I'm embracing fame right now, and that's exactly why. To create something even in matters. When it comes to breathing, it's all about inhaling. Breathing cannot occur if you only focus on exhaling. It's through inhaling that we achieve balance in the process. It creates a sensation of enzymes being alive. Feeling grateful for the bright moments of life. It is a statement, and also an action of creating space for what comes next. Please consider what you're trying to finish right now. Please see it not just as an ending, but as a beginning of a quiet rebirth. That perspective will surely, and it should shine a light on your next step. Now, let me summarize today's video. Feelings that I couldn't share with anyone. Having held on to them for so long, I gently bring to an end all that has accumulated in my heart on this day. Breath, because your life will go on. In order to bring a new wind into flow, it is important to quietly let go of what is no longer needed, with love and gratitude. The choice to end this is not a weakness at all. It's a testament to the seriousness with which you've tackled challenges up to this point, and a manifestation of the genuine courage you have to live better from here on. By letting something go, the peace that is granted to oneself in white space, this margin is a prepared space for the words, people, and events that you are destined to encounter in the future, allowing them to gently unfold. For a heart that has grown accustomed to suffering, it might feel very challenging to bring things to an end, but change always starts with your quiet decision. It doesn't have to be something dramatic. Sometimes, a single word can drastically alter the course of your life. After you've completed something, I am beginning to embark on a journey toward a new version of myself. Although this journey may still feel uncertain, I can feel the strength to move forward growing deep within my heart. Please take your time. Take your time walking at your own pace. Trust that every ending has its meaning, and there will come a day when you can look back on it with kindness. Thank you for taking the time to explore Kukai's teachings again today. If this video has quietly ignited a spark in your heart, I would really appreciate your support through likes and channel subscriptions. I also hope we can spend some peaceful time together.